Good evening, future techies. My name is Ryan Kirchner, Associate Director of Recruitment for Purdue Polytechnic Institute, and I want to welcome you to the first of 3 YouTube live broadcasts focusing on the Purdue Polytechnic Institute at Purdue University West Lafayette campus. Tonight we'll be talking about what is the Polytechnic Institute, and with our 3 panelists, Dean Gary Bertolini, Professor Rio Bird, and Professor Nancy Denton. In a minute, I'll have them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their backgrounds and their role with the Polytechnic Institute. But first, I have just a couple logistical aspects of this broadcast I want to make sure we cover. We do have a chat function available through YouTube Live, so you can send in some questions that you might have based on the topics that we're going through tonight. We have our technical director behind the scenes, John O'Malley, who'll be either responding to those questions or sending them in to me so that we can respond to those throughout the evening tonight. You could also send in an email to us at techrecruit@purdue.edu. That way we can check that email and respond to those questions as well. In order to send in that question via the chat function, you do need to create a YouTube Live account, but don't worry, after that you don't have to post any videos or anything, so it's just a way for you to add in your question to the chat function tonight. So with that, I do want to ask our panelists to introduce themselves just to get a little bit of background about them and again their role with the Institute here at the Polytechnic. So with that, we'll start with you, Nancy.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm one of the Polytechnic faculty members in Mechanical Engineering Technology, which is part of the School of Engineering Technology. I've been here kind of forever, but I did have a couple jobs beforehand. So mechanical engineering is my in an applied sense is my background. I started off as a design engineer for the Navy, and then later worked and found that involved way too much sitting still. So I moved to product acoustics, where I was a consultant internally for a computer company that is no longer around, and been at the Polytechnic now for about 30 years. So, and I guess I'm in the partly teaching in the areas of materials testing and processing, or plastics specifically, and then things related to machinery health monitoring, again testing related, particularly involved with things through the Vibration Institute, which is an international company.
Dean Bertolini.
So hi, welcome everyone. I am Gary Bertolini. I'm the Dean of the Polytechnic Institute. I've been here as long as Nancy, probably, so it's a long time. And my role as a dean, just to describe what that is, academic universities are divided into things that are called colleges. Those colleges contain all of the programs. We happen to have 6 different schools or departments underneath that. And it's my responsibility to lead that. And there are 10 different colleges here on campus, with the Polytechnic being one of them. My background is in computer graphics, primarily in engineering design graphics, as well as scientific visualization.
Hello everyone, my name is Rio Bird. I am an assistant professor in the College of Technology, Computer Graphics Technology. I am starting my 3rd year here, and I do work in data visualization. So I'm teaching data visualization courses at the undergraduate and graduate level. I am excited about the opportunity to introduce data visualization to all persons with an interest in data visualization, because data is everywhere. And regardless of what your major is, you will at some point visualize something. And so what we're providing you with is an opportunity to learn more about data visualization and to use those transferable skills to make you more marketable when you graduate.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll move right into our first topic, which may seem like the most obvious topic of, for those of our viewers who aren't really familiar with what the Purdue Polytechnic Institute is all about, how would you describe it? What would you say is our mission or vision? Could you describe some of the academic areas of study, the departments and schools, like you mentioned, Gary, and faculty industry experience, things like that? And actually, we'll start with you,
Sure.
Gary.
Well, the Polytechnic Institute actually evolved out of a college that used to be named the College of Technology. And it was very purposeful in why we named it the Polytechnic. And I'm going to have to give you a quick history lesson here, which is that the first polytechnic that was ever created was in 1794 in Paris, France. It's called the École Polytechnique, and it's still one of the greatest universities in the world. But it was done specifically to create a new discipline of engineering. A lot has happened since then. We are in a new era. We're no longer in the industrial age. We're in the digital age or the knowledge age, and it takes a different kind of education. We're actually leading the transformation of higher education here at Purdue as well as the nation. And so the Polytechnic is kind of a way of re-identifying us and showing that we are doing something very different and have a leading role in addressing the needs of society and industry and business for the 21st century. And that's what the Polytechnic is really about.
All right, very nice, thank you. And Nancy, you mentioned before your area in the School of Engineering Technology. Could you describe a little bit about what departments, what majors are incorporated there?
Okay, so I think we have 8 majors now, because we basically we are the right place for people who are interested in how things work and wanting to do the engineering tasks that really like to learn by exploring things and then seeing the results and trying to really understand why they function and how they function and how that's going to be working with. And since we're a polytechnic, we're multidisciplinary. Within the School of Engineering Technology, that means we have people who are focused on electrical, mechanical, mechatronics, robotics, audio. I'm losing count here. Okay, that's 5. Automation, yes. And then a more generalist engineering technology. Plus, we have one of are just kicking off one of the competency-based degrees, which is fairly unique to the Polytechnic at Purdue, where your learning is really closely connected with what you want to do and what you and your faculty mentor work out for your plan of study. And when you show that you're competent in different subjects, then you move on until you master it.
Vitri, would you talk about the computer graphics technology majors for us?
We have 9 majors, and I'm going to try to remember them all, although I may not be able to. Of course, we have data visualization, which is the specialization area that I'm in. We also have gaming, which is very hot right now. Animation, we have building, BIM, building information management. We also have technical effects. I'm losing count as well as to the others. Human-centered design, also known, which is very popular, also known as user experience.
Yes.
And so you may hear those 2 terms used interchangeably, but they're basically come out of the same group that we have here. Virtual product integration, so I'm not sure if I hit all 9 of them, but we definitely have a broad range of different majors that are available that you can choose from.
I think one area in web and media.
Yes,
Right.
thank you. I forgot that one. Yes.
Yeah, web development and design, I
Yes.
believe, is the major name itself.
Correct.
All right, very nice. How would you describe the ways in which the students are educated within these different programs? Gary, you mentioned the Polytechnic model. What does that mean exactly in terms of teaching methods and the way students are experiencing the majors themselves?
Well, first of all, our college has a rich history of focusing on undergraduate teaching. But in addition to that, we have a curriculum and a way of delivering the curriculum that is very much application oriented. Students will learn the theory related to their disciplines. So if they're in engineering technology, they still learn engineering fundamentals. If they're in computer graphics, they learn the fundamentals of computer science. But we immediately and very quickly get into applications of that and do not spend as much time on the theory. And so that's always been an attribute. What we're trying to do is take that to the next level where we have these experiences that are revolving around project-based learning and projects. In many cases, these are open-ended projects, so the students are challenged to come up with novel answers, which is the way the world works. There's really not a lot of one right answer when you get out in the real world, and being able to be flexible and understand and be able to handle the challenges that you have and you don't know what the correct answer is.
Mm-hmm.
You do the best you can. You actually are experiencing that in our curriculum. We're also trying to emphasize real-world learning through internships and senior capstone projects, which are in many cases funded directly by industry or sponsored by industry. We do a lot, and we're trying to integrate more mentoring so that the students have more opportunities to work directly with faculty, even though we have large programs. That's one of the things that we expect, and we have high hopes that we will be able to come up with ways of showing true mentoring that's going on through the various programs and teaching that we do. There's many other attributes that go to the whole Polytechnic, which we might get into a little bit later, but that gives you maybe a starting point.
Okay. And Vitra, would you maybe talk a little bit about, Dean Bertolini mentioned some projects in the classes and labs. What are some things that you would implement or ask your students to do in terms of those projects or lab experiences?
Well, one of the things that data visualization allows you to do is have a lot of flexibility. And what I try to do in the data viz classes is to work with data sets that are relevant to students. So I don't just make up a data set. That's one of the challenges. And so what we try to do is to engage the students in that actual process. So I don't spend all of my time lecturing to you, but I expect you to be a participant in the coursework, to be vested in the assignments. And so we look at different types of data that's available in a wide range of interests. And so that way the student retains that information more so than just regurgitating it. And so we look for different types of projects. It could be, if you like baseball statistics, we can visualize that. In the past, we looked at Facebook data. Most of you have Facebook accounts. We've downloaded, their networks, and they actually visualize their networks. We've looked at agricultural data, homelessness data, just energy, all different types of data. And so the whole idea is to give you a broad range of different types of data to visualize so that you can understand the process that you would need to do in order to visualize that data and gain insight.
Can I take your class?
Yes.
Sounds really interesting.
And actually, I am redesigning the class for this fall, where we're going to look at big data and what that means, because that's where everything is leading to. So we want students to be able to take a look at that data, not be intimidated by it, but know the process that you need to employ in order to visualize that data.
Okay. And for Nancy, we actually had a good question from one of our viewers. Bridget asked, what is the difference between engineering and engineering technology here at Purdue? So we kind of touched on that a bit earlier.
Okay, so at Purdue, there are a number of differences between engineering and engineering technology. A lot of it starts but in terms of what's best for you, starts with how do you like to learn things. So as an engineering student, if that's the right choice for you, you're probably someone who really likes to know all the theoretical aspects before you try to solve a problem, and then you'll get to some applications. If you're an engineer, for engineering technology, you're going to be a person who takes in the facts and the theory as much as you can as you're trying to solve a problem and develop a solution. And it may not be the the best solution, but so you might be a little bit more iterative in the application, but you'll want to work from the application perspective instead. So kind of backing up a little bit to that project question, sort of an example. My plastics and composites processes courses really has no prerequisites. So if you've made it into the university, you can take the class. And the students learn about different plastic materials through testing. They learn their properties. We do some processes like blow molding and injection molding and things like that. And while we're doing that, then small teams of students are designing products that they're going to make. And so that's what they do. And so they learn how to, some of the documentation, some of the process control, things like what kind of temperatures and pressures and flow rates and all that are going to work. And then they go for it. And so if you're an engineering technology student, you tend to be ready to go for it without necessarily having all the information. And then you review what you've done, and you make it, if it's not quite what you wanted, then you'll do it again and do it better the next time.
Okay, great. I do want to point out, John, our technical director, has put up a website link for the engineering technology difference site. So you can take a look at a little more detail about the focus of the engineering technology program that we have here through the School of Engineering Technology. So you can kind of see that difference through that website. And sorry, go ahead.
And Bridget, I should have said also that some of it is part of that fundamental knowledge stuff. So if you're in engineering, you will be taking more advanced math. We stop with, after a couple semesters of calculus, we stop our requirements for engineering technology, while the engineering students will continue through differential equations at least. And the kinds of classes, the extent of some of the science classes is going to be a little bit different as well. Certainly somebody like ag and biological engineering will have more biology.
Okay, very nice. And we have been getting a couple of questions related to the other subject areas and majors that we have available. Also some questions about math requirements or courses that are directly related to the curriculum. And John has actually just put back up our link to find your major. So it lists all the departments that we have that you can then look through all the different majors. And each of the majors website has a list of the plans of study going back a few years actually, and then the most recent for the current incoming class, what their plan of study looks like. So you can take a look at math requirements, science requirements, the courses that are required for the major, specifically the university's core, and then electives and technical selectives that go along with that plan of study. So you can explore those other options through that website specifically. All right, I want to make sure we get this next topic here. Dean Bertolini, you mentioned that transformation that the College of Technology took to the Polytechnic Institute as it is today. Can you talk about some of those elements of transformation that you really kind of focused on? I believe there are 10 of them. We don't need to talk about each one of them specifically, but what are the most important ones, unless you want to, of course? What are the ones that have been implemented over the last few years, and how, and then what are some others that are upcoming as well?
Sure. Yeah, so we framed this transformation of the learning for higher education around 10 elements. I won't go into all of them. Some of the more important ones I'll try and cover here. And they're very much transformational. The idea of integrating liberal arts into technical topics, that's a key to what we're trying to do. That is unlike what anyone else is doing that I know of in the country. It's where you will learn your communication, your English, your math, your physics in a learning environment that is very much aligned with the projects you're working on, the work that you're doing, so it brings relevance to all those subjects. One of the first classes that you'll take is Tech 120. It's in your freshman year. It's a design thinking course, which is a very modern view on how design is being done. But it's actually taught in cohorts of students with the English professor and a comm professor, a communications professor, along with the technology faculty. And that is a very unique kind of environment. So we work very, very closely with College of Liberal Arts. The other thing that I'll mention, and Nancy mentioned a little bit, it's the competency base. Getting to the point where what's important for us is not that you tell us what you know, but you show us what you know. And it's through your actions and being able to show that you really know how to apply your knowledge. That's much more important to us, given the nature of our discipline. And actually it's really important because that's what's expected in business and industry. So this whole transformation is based on input that we're getting from business and industry as far as what they expect of graduates in the 21st century. I think that I mentioned it briefly, the senior capstone projects. Those are actually really important because we've tried to extend them across 2 semesters so you get a much deeper learning experience. It's with a team, so you work with others. You will also have a industry mentor, so you're working directly with industry in many cases.
Okay.
And that extended period of time allows you to go much deeper into the project and your knowledge and show what you can do, which is what I mentioned earlier. And the engineering technology programs are probably leading that. We have a very good relationship. I don't know what you have, maybe 50 or 60 projects going this fall, and it's a large number of projects.
I'll go with maybe. Yeah. Probably about 50.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that go on, and there, many of them, if not most of them, are with industry. But we're also even opening that up. I mean, the idea of working with other universities around the world on these projects, also with companies that have international footprints, so students get the opportunity to do that. Another feature is of the curriculum is globalization. We take that very, very seriously, and so there's globalization requirements. There's many opportunities for students to study abroad, as well as do these things like international internships, doing projects internationally. We have a number of very, very strong relationships with universities throughout the world, and so there's plenty of opportunities for students to get global experiences. So that's 4, I think, out of the 10. So those are pretty important. But yeah,
I'd like to follow on the globalization. Sure. We also have a pretty large population of international students that come to Purdue that are with the Polytechnic, and so even if you for your circumstances sort of prevent you from studying abroad, you can get involved as a and that's not really a buddy, but be paired up with an international student. There are a lot of different activities for, I'm going to guess we probably have at least 50, if not more, different international student organizations to get involved with. So it's a very multicultural experience if you want it to be.
Absolutely.
And if I could add to
Absolutely.
the transformation in terms of working with the College of Liberal Arts, we are developing courses to work with them in terms of the CGT students, work with the liberal arts students, and they learn from each other. And so again, that's a way of building their expertise in collaboration and communication. All of those things is one of the features of what we're trying to do in terms of collaborating.
Yeah, and I might add one more thing that's really important. We're just finishing up agreements with every department in our college where you can actually get a second major in liberal arts without going through all of the major requirements.
Okay.
So you could actually end up with virtually a dual major, a major in CGT or in engineering technology and in philosophy or in communications. Or in English. I mean, so it really opens up many, many possibilities for students to broaden their education and have some very unique experiences, and yet still be pretty much focused on their technology, but they have that little bit of extra, which I think is going to be extremely valuable once you graduate.
Absolutely. Just want to point out that over the last few minutes, John has changed the links at the bottom of the our little window here to talk about answering the call, which talks about the 10 elements of transformation. Dean Bertolini mentioned 4 of them, but there are 6 others. Just kind of go through those and take a look, as well as our global site and our student life site that is available through Purdue, just so you make sure you kind of check those out and really see a little more in detail of what we were just mentioning before. So Vitri, I have a question. Maybe you might be able to answer since it's related to computer graphics.
Okay.
So our student Connor is asking if it's possible to get a double major or major in building information modeling along with a minor in construction management in 4 years. And maybe you might know the answer to that too, Dean Bertolini. Not sure. It's not specifically your areas, but
Believe the answer is yes,
Okay.
because I don't think the construction management minor is a huge number of credits.
Sure.
I think it's about 12.
yeah, typically minors are about 12 to 15 credits, depending on how they're
and
structured.
they overlap usually.
Right, and the building information modeling major is directly related to the construction management field, certainly in more of the design aspect with the building information modeling, but still getting that construction management piece would be definitely beneficial for you as a student graduating those two areas of study.
And that major really is a cooperation between the CGT department and the construction management.
Mhm.
So you get really good mentoring and advice on how to go about meeting your goals, Connor.
Right, absolutely. So we're just a few more minutes, I think we'll wrap up, but what are some other initiatives that might be coming down the pipeline? Any new majors or innovative teaching methods, retention success programs that you might all be involved in?
Well, let me start off by saying that we just started a brand new major in cyber security.
Mhm.
So the freshman class is just starting this fall, but that one I think is very popular. We mentioned
is.
game studies before,
Mhm.
robotics,
Mhm.
mechatronics, automation, audio engineering technology. There are a few others. We have one in human resource development.
Yes,
That's gonna
brand new
start,
major.
next fall.
Mhm.
And we continue to add these majors as we go forward. I mean, we have an aviation program that's one of the best in the nation. They
Absolutely.
are getting into things like unmanned aerial systems. We have other programs that continue to evolve. The construction management program has a very, very unique kind of curriculum. Where it's almost as if there aren't real classes that you take. It's all project based, and all of our programs are ranked very, very high around the nation, around the world. But that's a few examples of some of the things. But I urge any viewer to look at the various majors. There's a lot of opportunity to find things that I think might be relevant to your interests in these industry sectors.
And I'd like to add to that, we also have the new major in data visualization,
Yes, absolutely.
which
Right.
will start in the fall as well.
Yeah. Good.
If I may add one more thing,
Absolutely.
the uniqueness to this is that this is a new major in data visualization for undergraduates.
Yeah.
Typically, students don't get to deal with data visualization until they're at the graduate level. So we are really at the cutting edge with this and making this available to students at such an early time in their academics.
Yeah, I do have to mention that I have asked the faculty to look very seriously at adding majors and coursework in artificial intelligence,
Okay.
Internet of Things, data visualization, which we already have, big data, data analysis, in
Mhm.
some of those areas. We're also looking very closely at developing more formal kinds of degree programs around advanced manufacturing. Now, robotics are obviously part of advanced manufacturing, but looking at it more as an integrated type of degree, and there's a huge demand in all these areas that I've just mentioned.
Okay.
It's probably the Internet of Things mentioned. We do have quite a bit of our graduate work in that area now. Like Riot is the robotic Internet of Things, and there's a number of different faculty, that will be that are eager and happy to have undergraduate research assistants and provide those experiences or set those up so then you can kind of tailor your experience to what you need to do or want to do.
Another question I want to get to for Nancy. What would you say, from Liv asked, what is the best way to work with prosthetics in an engineering capacity? I don't know if you have any experience in that field area.
Well, coming from a mechanical engineering technology background, I would say the mechanical approach is to look at biomechanics. I would actually, and also, and there's a fair amount of potentially electronics embedded in there. So mechatronics might be a little bit better choice. You also might be, if that's really the area of interest, think pretty seriously about something like the transdisciplinary approach, where you really are designing your curriculum to match what you want. There are definitely some biomedical opportunities elsewhere in Purdue that might be appropriate, but you just have to decide how much you want to be focused on the devices and how much on kind of the processes involved in their installation into bodies and things like that.
And Dean Bertolini, since we now brought up a couple different times the transdisciplinary studies in technology, should you go into a little more detail about how that program came about and what's all involved with it?
So the transdisciplinary studies in technology is, you might have heard of disciplinary, multidisciplinary. Transdisciplinary means that you transcend these silos or these disciplines, and the way we've designed it is there are very, very few required courses. In fact, the required courses are the core, which is around a studio and a lab experience. And then from that, you take specific courses that you decide on in consultation with your faculty mentor. And you can literally design your 4-year degree. It's also competency-based, as we've talked a little bit about before. And what's important about this is it's the first true Bachelor of Science competency-based degree program at a large public institution in the nation. And so it's a very, very unique program, and one that we think is going to become more and more popular as students try to kind of design their own. Because the challenge, quite honestly, which we haven't talked about, but it's a little bit scary for the audience out there, is that the world is changing so rapidly that kind of one of our mantras that we have that motivates us to try to create this unique learning environment is that we are actually preparing you for jobs that don't exist right now. That there are things happening that we can't predict, and so we have to prepare graduates to be much more flexible, that have a very good base understanding of their discipline, but know how to foresee changes and stay ahead of that, so they can actually be industry leaders once they get out as the technology changes, because they're flexible enough in order to do that. And that is a really important aspect of what we're doing, is we're really trying to prepare them for a world that's very, very hard to predict.
Fair enough.
And if I may add to
Absolutely.
that, a world that is very diverse.
Yes.
Yes.
That's one of the things that we get
absolutely.
being a part of this program is working in different types of environments, working with different types of people from different backgrounds,
Absolutely.
because that is the real world.
Absolutely.
And you may have noticed John has switched the link up there on the graphics to the Transdisciplinary Studies in Technology website, so you can take a look, see a little more detail about that program. So I want to end with one more question for our panelists. You just had one last note, one last bit of information for everybody out there to learn about or know about the Polytechnic Institute. What would it be? And Nancy, we'll start with you.
Caught me off.
Sorry to put you on the spot
one
there.
last thing, and we'll go with this is a place where we are very people focused. It's another mantra is students first in all we do, and I think everyone within the Polytechnic really does try to live up to that on a daily basis. So if what you want to do is something that we can make happen or help you make happen, we will do everything we can to do so. And if it's something that you want to make happen that isn't going to work through us, we will be honest and say, we'll help you find your place.
What she said.
Take these away out, huh?
Yeah, really, that's a really important point. I personally take it very seriously, and I think everyone in the college takes it very seriously. Students first in all we do. It's something that comes natural to us, though, too, and we do try and make sure the students have a great learning experience, but more importantly, are really prepared for a world of work and get really high-paying jobs, and our placement rates are really high, so there's many, many opportunities out there for you. And one of the reasons we selected the name Polytechnic, poly means many. We have many different kinds of technologies and industry sectors that we address, and we have many majors, so you can specialize in areas and get very, very good at it, with overall goal to be industry leaders, to be leaders in whatever you end up doing after you graduate. And Purdue overall is one of the greatest universities in the nation and the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe we have one of the greatest programs in the world, and that's part of our mission because we're part of a great university and we're doing everything we can to improve every day. And one last piece of advice, which is if you're interested in our program, I would suggest applying early and often. We have great demand for our programs, and so do the best you can. Keep your grades up. Do what you can to help yourself stand out. But the programs are on high demand. It doesn't mean that you won't get in, but it's a very, very challenging and rigorous curriculum too. But it's definitely something that you'll find worth going to.
Absolutely. Demetria?
Well, one of the things that I like about the Polytechnic Institute is that we are preparing students or giving them a well-rounded experience.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say in my 3 years of being here that the faculty are committed to staying on the cutting edge, finding out what are those things that industry is looking for, and preparing the students for that. And so if you want that kind of experience, then I think that this is definitely the place for you to be.
Well, that about wraps up our discussion tonight. I want to thank all of you for joining us at home, and also our panelists for their information and discussion tonight, as well as John for the behind-the-scenes work. So I hope that gives you a good idea of what the Polytechnic Institute is all about. We do have another broadcast coming up on Tuesday, September 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and that topic will be why choose the Polytechnic. So we'll go into more detail about outcomes and the payoff of your degree and internships and things along those lines. Dean Bertolini will be joining us, as well as a couple other folks for that broadcast. So hopefully we'll see you then for that broadcast as well. You will also be able to rewatch this broadcast by clicking on that same link that you clicked on to view it originally here tonight. So if you have any additional questions as well, you can also send those to us via email at techrecruit@purdue.edu. And so we'll check those on later on tomorrow and throughout the rest of this week. So once again, thank you all very much for joining me tonight. Thank you all again at home, and have a great night. Boiler up.
Thank you.